All right, thanks for that, Danny. Well, new this morning, a man suspected of killing 2 deputies and injuring 2 others in Missouri is dead. So for your update here at noon, a sheriff in the Ozarks say law enforcement killed Richard Byrd in a shootout which happened early this morning. He says that when one of the deputies was killed, 2 others got hurt. The sheriff says the suspect ran after allegedly shooting another member of law enforcement in a separate incident on Monday. Officials identify one of the officers who died as 30-year-old Christian County Deputy Gabriel Ramirez.
The suspect, once deputies were close to him, immediately opened fire on the deputies, and 3 deputies were shot during that time.
Of course, we will keep you updated on air and on our website, 5newsonline.com, as the story develops. A Benton County manslaughter case has ended with a guilty plea. Alejandro Zenon Reyes has been charged in the death of 17-year-old Alexis Wynn. We've been following this story for a few years. Wynn was killed back in 2022 while in a car with Zenon Reyes. An eyewitness says that Zenon Reyes was playing with a handgun when it fired and then shot Wynn in the head. He then fled to Mexico and was extradited back to the U.S. last January. On Monday, he was sentenced to 12 years in prison with a 9-year suspended sentence. But Wynn's family says that this doesn't feel like justice, and they feel they don't have the full truth.
You don't have a gun dancing, waving, a loaded gun with your finger on the trigger, and it go off and kill someone right here.
Prosecutors say the manslaughter charge stems from what they could prove in court, and they've constrained by the law and parole rules at the time of the crime. Wynn's mother says that she's now working to start a foundation in her daughter's name aimed at raising awareness about teen gun violence. And a man who was inside a car that hit and killed Pea Ridge police officer Kevin Apple will return to prison after violating the terms of probation. Elijah Andazola was serving a 15-year probation after he pleaded guilty to charges that he was an accessory in Officer Apple's death. We have learned that Andazola has also pleaded guilty to aggravated burglary and was sentenced to 12 years for that crime. He'll then have another 48 years of probation when he is released. Well, Shauna Cash was behind the wheel when the car hit and killed Officer Apple. Apple was then dragged nearly 150 feet by Cash's car as she and Andazola, who was in the passenger seat, fled. Now, this is all according to an affidavit. Cash is currently serving a life sentence without the possibility of parole. Well, the State of the Union address is tonight, and President Trump has made comments that it could be a long speech. The White House says the president will address a number of issues from domestic policy, such as the economy, to foreign policies issues such as Iran's nuclear program. Natalie Brandt has the latest from Capitol Hill.
Address tonight. You're going to hear a speech that is a celebration of 250 years of our nation and our nation's independence.
But with midterm elections less than 9 months away, White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt says President Trump's State of the Union address tonight will focus largely on the economy.
The president will lay out the case for why he and Republicans are better suited to continue tackling the affordability crisis that was created by the Biden administration and Democrats on Capitol Hill.
This speech comes as the president's signature policies, from tariffs to immigration enforcement, face pushback in the courts and Congress, and during week 2 of a partial government shutdown impacting the Department of Homeland Security.
He will call on Democrats in Congress to reopen the Department of Homeland Security.
Lawmakers and Americans at home will also be listening to what President Trump says about Iran, with a massive military buildup in the region and the administration weighing possible military action over the country's nuclear program.
Everything is on the table. It's the president's decision. We're here to help ensure that a deal is made. And I think Iran would be wise to make a good deal.
Nuclear talks are scheduled later this week, and the administration is briefing congressional leaders today. But Senator Alyssa Slotkin, a former CIA analyst, says she is concerned about the end game.
I was just in the Middle East last week, and there's definitely movement of a ton of military assets into the theater, a lot of jittery people. I think the most important thing is, what exactly are we trying to do in Iran? What's the strategic objective, and how are we going to achieve it?
Senator Slotkin will be among the Democrats attending tonight's speech. Others say they'll boycott altogether. Natalie Brand, CBS News, Capitol Hill.
Well, in Rogers, Mayor Greg Hines is set to deliver his State of the City address today, laying out what's next for growth, recovery, and your tax dollars. Hines is expected to focus on recovery from the May 2024 storms. Council members will also consider adding $12 million in FEMA grant funding tied directly to storm damage. The State of the City begins at 6 p.m. We'll update you first on what happens tonight on your 5 News at 10. And a new candidate has entered the race for Arkansas governor. Colt Shelby has put his name in as the candidate for the Libertarian Party. The party announced his nomination at its convention over the weekend. Shelby is the man who sued Arkansas for the timeline in the State Senate District 26 special election. He must file by March 2nd. The other candidates who have filed so far are right there on your screen. Meanwhile, we've learned that there's a misprinting error on ballots in Johnson County. The County Election Commission has confirmed the original ballot said that the West Side School District is seeking an levy rate. The school district made us aware of the misprint last week. They are not seeking a rate increase, but the same levy rate that they've had before. Now the county says the correction will be placed at each ballot machine to notify people of the corrected wording. And to find early voting sites and information for each race in next week's election, you can text the word VOTE to the number on your screen right there, 479-785-5000. And we'll send you back a link to our full March election guide. Well, Habitat for Humanity of Northwest Arkansas is continuing its work to expand access to affordable home ownership, also pushing for federal action on the housing crisis. Local leaders recently traveled to D.C. to meet with Arkansas's elected officials. 5 News reporter Claire Everbach shares how they are working to increase the supply of starter homes.
Habitat for Humanity of Northwest Arkansas builds homes for families earning between 50 and 80% of the area median income, offering affordable mortgages with no down payment required. In February, that work saw movement at the federal level. Habitat leaders recently joined hundreds of affiliates in Washington, D.C. for Habitat on the Hill. During that trip, they met with staff from Senators John Bozeman and Tom Cotton, as well as Representative Steve Womack, to discuss ways to expand the nation's supply of affordable homes. While they were there, the House passed the Housing 21st Century Act, legislation aimed at increasing affordable housing across the country. Leaders say the difference between renting and owning a home can be life-changing for families.
Becoming a homeowner for so many of our partner families solidifies their ability to go do the things they wanted to do, to start a new business, to go get their degree, to help fund their kids to go to college, because they have that stability of home ownership.